It's been a pretty busy year for new Apple products, but the company might have a few more things to drop before the end of 2025. And in this video, I want to show you everything we could be seeing at an Apple November event. After months of waiting, it sounds like Apple could finally be about to announce some of their most anticipated products, and I want to start off with how we know anything is happening this month in the first place. Well, according to a new report, Apple's planning to refresh the insides of all Apple stores globally on Wednesday, November 12th. And generally, this means one of two things. One, that they're just moving the products at tables around and hanging up some banners to reflect what is currently on sale, or two, that new products are coming in the stores and they want to feature those in a new way. And the reason I'm so confident in the second part of this happening is that if you look at the stock levels for some products across Apple's website, well, there's a couple that are running pretty low. Notably, both the HomePod mini speaker and Apple TV 4K are getting pretty hard to find, which is always a telltale sign that a new version is coming, so Apple's clearing out the old stock to make room for the new stuff. So knowing that, let's start off with the new Apple TV. It seems like it has been forever since Apple has talked about this product, and it does sound like the new version will be a pretty significant upgrade over the current generation. For the first time in years, the Apple TV is going to look different because there have been increased rumors of a front-facing camera that not only would support FaceTime calls built in now, but also enable you to control your Apple TV using gestures of some kind. Now, this is not a confirmed change, and I will be kind of shocked if Apple does put a physical camera in the Apple TV box. But if you do look at all of the FaceTime specific upgrades that Apple made as part of tvOS 26 this year, it does seem like they kind of were working on increased camera support. But I think the main thing that Apple will be promoting is proper support for Apple Intelligence, as on the inside we will be getting the A17 Pro chip, which actually initially debuted back in the iPhone 15 Pro. Not only have we already seen concrete evidence of this chip being used in code, it is going to significantly bolster the gaming and graphical capabilities of this Apple TV. For the first time, debuting ray tracing, so games are going to get a massive jump. There's always been the talk of Apple making a true game console, and while this is not going to be that, it is going to be the closest thing to that Apple has ever released. Plus, networking capabilities are getting a lot better too, as Apple's putting the N1 chip inside of the Apple TV. This is their custom designed Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and Thread radio, which in my experience, because this chip is already in the iPhone 17 series, has made things so much more reliable and consistent. I also wouldn't be shocked if the new Apple TV supported 5K or 8K, just because we are starting to see those technologies mature a little bit. To be clear, no concrete rumors have said this, but considering Apple always likes to support the highest quality possible, I think the higher resolutions would be a next natural step. One rumor even says that this new Apple TV could get cheaper generation over generation, with the price going back down to $99, which I do think is a killer price point for this set-top box. The only thing is, it is a bit of an older rumor, and I think some of the global economics have shifted in recent months that could make a price decrease a little bit more challenging. Either way, it is looking like one of the more interesting Apple TV updates we've gotten in recent history, and the perfect companion for this that Apple's going to want you to buy for the best sound quality is a new version of the HomePod mini that sits beside it. And this speaker is long overdue for an update, as it has been 5 years since the original version dropped back in 2020. Yeah, we were all wearing masks when this product came out. That is how long it has been. So on the HomePod mini 2, Apple's planning some significant upgrades to all the fundamentals, and it starts with a faster and more powerful chip on the inside. Now, why does this matter in a speaker? For two big reasons. First, this new HomePod mini will support Apple Intelligence and the more capable Siri when that launches, which I was actually surprised to see because Apple generally uses Apple Watch chips on the inside, and it sounds like Apple will be tuning that in a way to make the new Siri work. But second, and way more important to me, is the audio quality. The new chip on the inside is going to make the sound quality increase this time around, and this has always been my number one complaint about the HomePod mini. I just don't think the first version sounds that good. Right now, it's unclear if Apple will be changing out some of the internal components in the structure, but I feel like they probably need to, since it has been half a decade. Apple's also upgrading the ultra-wideband chip on the inside to the U2, which is going to make features like handoff, where you transfer music from your phone to the HomePod wirelessly, work more accurate, as there should be a greater understanding of the the distance between your phone and the actual HomePod. And completing the internals, Apple's also going to use their N1 chip inside the HomePod Mini as well. So Wi-Fi 7, latest version of Bluetooth, and Thread will also be built in stock. Now, as for new colors, it does sound like Apple is preparing at least one new colorway for this generation, and that is going to be a red variant for the HomePod. We've kind of seen like an orange hue before, but it's never really hit. I just feel like a proper classic red would be really popular. I think I would buy that. If Apple can just maintain the current $99 price tag for this, I think the new HomePod Mini could be a killer deal. I just hope that they do not increase the price, because $99 is not expensive, but it ain't cheap for this. And speaking of cheaper Apple products, the AirTag 2 is also almost here. Now, this is something we've been talking about for months, and from everything that I have learned, it seems like this is ready to launch at any moment. It just hasn't happened yet. With the second generation AirTag, it sounds like Apple is sticking with fundamentally the same design, although some rumors have indicated that it could switch to a rechargeable battery. I'm just a little bit skeptical how you would make something that small last more than a month or two at a time. The main upgrade will be improved finding for your items using a new U2 ultra wideband chip that gives you 3 times the tracking range as prior, which is actually a pretty big step up. It could also increase the accuracy of some features like precision finding too. But the thing that Apple wants to highlight for this second generation AirTag is it's not just better at finding your stuff, it's also better at making sure people don't find you. Stalking has been a bit of an issue with the first generation model, as apparently you can disable the speaker, making it easier to follow people around without them knowing that they're being tracked. So on the second generation AirTag, Apple is making it more tamper resistant. Interested to see how they do that, and I will say a rechargeable battery would mean less moving parts that you can take out, so maybe that's going to be part of the story. Honestly, privacy is a huge reason that I use Apple products in the first place, although I thought that by using Apple products it meant I'd be protected from people selling my data online. That is not the case. There are all these people known as data brokers that scan for data breaches and then sell your stuff without you even knowing. It's super gross and scummy, and the only way to stop this from happening is to reach out to each one of these data brokers individually, but there are hundreds out there, and that's why I partnered up with Incogni, who sponsored today's video. Incogni does all the hard work for you, reaching out to these data brokers on a continual basis, and they have this great dashboard where you can see the status of everything that's completed, the requests that are still pending, and any new data brokers that are popping up along the way. Incogni now even supports custom removal requests, so if you see a link about you online, you can send it directly to them and they will try their best to get that removed too. So take your personal data back with Incogni and use code AppleTrack at the link down below to get 60% off an annual plan at incogni.com/AppleTrack. As always, a huge thank you to Incogni for sponsoring this part of the video. Now let's get back to it. Alright, so with the new Apple TV, HomePod Mini, and AirTag out of the way, what other confirmed products are we seeing in November? Well, honestly, this is where things get a little bit murky, because my gut says that's probably all we're going to get, but we're also hearing rumors that between now and like February, March of next year, within the next 4 or so months, there is a lot of stuff on the way. Chief among these is the iPhone 17e. Already, Apple is planning a follow-up to their entry-level $600 iPhone, and this is actually going to be a bigger upgrade than I thought. According to one rumor, Apple will finally be putting the dynamic island on here and eliminating the notch on all of their phones. Now, initially hearing this, I was a bit skeptical, but it is a rumor we heard over a year ago for the 16e, and considering that all other iPhones have the dynamic island at this point, I don't think most people associate this as a super high-end or premium feature anymore. But the main reason Apple is releasing this phone is to put a new chip inside, as the iPhone 17e will feature Apple's newest A19 chip instead of the older A18. And the reason they're doing this is to make the phone a bit more competitive with other low-end Android phones, and just bring the 17e in line with the base level of performance on all other iPhone 17 models. Along with this, I'm also expecting Apple to update the cellular modem from the C1 to the C1X, as Apple debuted that as part of the iPhone Air, and it is even more power efficient, which could therefore increase battery life in combination with the chip even further on the 17e. Like I said, sounding like a bit of a larger update than I expected on Apple's cheapest offering. They're actually trying, which is pretty cool. However, that's not going to be the case on all of the new products they're working on. For example, there's an updated base model iPad, the one that costs $350, and they're going to finally put a chip inside that supports Apple Intelligence. When they updated it last year, they just didn't add support for AI at all, which was kind of strange. So now you can make Genmojis on the base iPad, which is definitely a reason to upgrade. Similarly, Apple's also working on a new version of the iPad Air, which will upgrade the current M3 chip to the M4 processor, increasing performance even further, but it's an iPad, you can't do that much. I'm still kind of confused why Apple is so bent on making the iPad so powerful. It's like, okay, cool. Because for me, I find these new chips way more interesting inside of Macs. First here, Apple is working on an updated MacBook Air that will have a new M5 chip internally, but I am most stoked for the new M5 Pro and M5 Max MacBook Pros. Although the story here with these MacBook Pros isn't as clear as everything else in this video, because I think Apple's going to update the MacBook Pro 2 times within the next year. The first time will be in the next couple of months with the faster processors, but the exact same design and everything else. And then later in 2026, that's when we would already see the M6 Pro and M6 Max inside of these completely redesigned chassis with a thin new look, OLED display for the first time that now has a touchscreen built in, and a complete vibe shift across the board. I'm currently working on a video to visualize what these new MacBook Pros will look like, so make sure you hit subscribe for that in case you haven't already, because it really will be the second MacBook Pro upgrade next year that's going to be the complete revamp, and the one that we have been looking forward to. Even so, Apple could not release anything else in this video, but the next two things I talk about and I would still be happy, and that is new Apple displays. For the first time in almost 4 years, Apple's going to be releasing a new base studio display, which will still be 5K, but likely switch over from cheaper LCD to way more premium mini LED for a significantly improved picture. But the one I'm really looking forward to is the Pro Display XDR 2. This is Apple's current 6K monitor that will likely be upgraded with more local dimming zones for a significantly brighter and more vibrant image, which also adds 120 Hz ProMotion, which would be the first time outside of a MacBook that we've seen the ultra smooth screen tech on a big 32-inch monitor. I am so excited. The reason we know Apple's getting ready to update this is there's been some code that leaked that shows it will have a webcam for the first time, which suggests that it will have speakers as well. These are all things missing from the current version that was debuted back in 2019. It's the monitor I use and look at every day, so I cannot wait for this thing to get an upgrade. It has been 6 long years in the making. Again, all of this stuff is launching between now and the early part of next year, plus the new Apple TV, HomePod Mini, and AirTag that are likely dropping in just a few days early in November. So as always, I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something new. If you did, drop a like. Seriously helps me, Sam, the guy who runs this channel, out. I think it probably helps if you hit a like button. That'd be cool. And hit subscribe, of course, so you stay up to date on more Apple products as they come out. All right, I've been Sam. I hope you are doing well, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.